Here we are at another episode of ShiftEd, coming to you from Learn Quebec. Today, wow, we're lucky to welcome Robert Martellacci. Did I say your name right,
Well
Robert?
said. Well said, Chris.
Nice. From MindShare Learning Technology, founder and president, and also from C2 Canada. So welcome, Robert. Thanks for hopping on and having a chat with us about some
My pleasure.
EdTech.
It's always good to be on the other side of the mic.
Yes, welcome to the other side, which is great. Check out Robert's podcast as well. I'll put the link in the descriptor so you guys can check out what he talks about with other leading experts across Canada, across the world, I should say. So, Robert, I love always starting this with kind of a background of how did you get into this whole EdTech world? Like, where are your beginning moments? You think that sparked something in you that wanted
absolutely.
you to pursue EdTech?
You know, it's one of those things. Be careful what you wish for. I was a university administrator at York University and running the Business Alliance, and the chair of our board was good buddies with Kevin O'Leary, and he said, "Oh, Kevin's launching this education company in Canada," and we were just getting on the internet in the late '90s, and I said, I'm really interested to learn more. And it all starts with expressing an interest and having a conversation. And from that conversation, I was hired to be the country manager and launch the Learning Company School Division. It's now literally 25 years ago. No idea about what EdTech. EdTech didn't exist as an acronym. And what I was getting, if I knew everything that it would involve, I probably wouldn't do it. Sometimes it's good to be a little naive, and it changed my life. I had an opportunity to make a greater impact nationally and internationally in what I do today, because it was an evolutionary process. I mean, we were, the Learning Company became the largest EdTech company globally. It's a great case study at Tufts University on it. We were sold to Mattel Toys. It was a disaster. But through that disaster, there was a lot of learning. It was painful. Right. We went through a dozen acquisitions in 18 months. I was there a total of 3 years, and I really wondered whether I made the right decision. I wouldn't change it for the world. Although I would be retired today if I was still at York, but I still play on the faculty hockey team. I know you're a hockey guy, so I'm excited to be playing tomorrow at lunchtime. But, it really opened me up to a whole new world and the opportunity to make a greater impact, leveraging technology, tech-infused pedagogy, if you will. And it's been a real journey. I have to tell you, it's been a real journey.
Absolutely. And it seems like the pace that technology advances at is a very high clip. So how do you support people at keeping up with the pace of the turnover?
Right.
I mean,
yeah,
because it is at this rapid pace, and we know as the educational world is not as quick. So how do you deal with that dynamic?
Yeah. So, it's, they talk about being on the edge, right? And it's a matter of not falling over the edge. And I augmented my skills several years into it. Pepperdine University master's degree. I know Ron Canio, who is a former colleague of yours, Michael's brother, Dr. Canio, he was good buddies with someone I knew well, Dr. Gary Stager, who enticed me to get into the master's in EdTech. And that was a PSN turning point, if you will, where I ended up getting a deeper understanding, inspired our conference that we just recently hosted that I'm happy to talk about, the 14th Canadian EdTech Summit, and our national e-magazine. They challenged us to change the world. And I said, I'm going to start one country at a time. And we read one of the books we read, we read Selling the Dream by Guy Kawasaki, former Apple evangelist. We read another book around, marketing and productizing, EdTech tools. And really, it's a spectrum. You have your early adopters. You mentioned when we were talking earlier about, hopefully we can get the other 90%, to embrace some form of tech-infused pedagogy. I'd like to think we're further ahead. But one of the shocking stats I recently heard was only 9% of professors, according to ISTE, the International Cyber Tech and Education Research, that professors in EdTech and faculties of education in the U.S. are modeling the use of EdTech for new teachers. Staggering 9% number, because, you know, a lot of them are baby boomers like us, or maybe me, not you. You look a little younger. So, but, you know, there's a lot of moving parts. And one of the reasons why we partnered with the Faculty of Education last year, McGill, and this year at Ottawa U, was we know that it takes a village, and the village includes post-secondary institutions in preparing future teachers. If we're bringing in teachers with, you know, it's like an analogous to a doctor, going to see a doctor who's had only 9% exposure to the tools they're going to be using while they were going through medical school. I'd look to
That's scary.
You know, that is scary. That's frightening.
Yep. Yeah. No, it's interesting too that you're saying that. I mean, because I see a lot of pre-service teachers, and you know, you always have this anticipation, oh, they're younger, digital natives, you know, whatever words you want to throw at them, but they are creatures of habit, so they are going to teach the way they were taught. And we noticed that having them think outside the box of how to maybe do things in a different way, how could I incorporate ed tech, is not a natural instinct for them, which is interesting to ponder.
Yeah, and on that note, so, you know, we had Dr. Michael Fullen speak at our summit on deep learning. Ottawa Catholic School Board was our School District of the Year Award winner last year. And because of that, we co-hosted with them. Tom D'Amico, the director and CEO, I chatted with him and after McGill and said, we'd love to, you know, consider hosting us. He didn't hesitate. You know, he has that innovative spirit. They've been doing deep learning before he came into the role. And he, to his credit, he continued that vision of deep learning. And, you know, Fullen talks about technology being the accelerator. So it's that tech-infused pedagogy, if you will. So you're right. When you talk about some of the in-service teachers or new teachers, you know, there is a knowledge gap. And we had that conversation and the skills agenda, which is very much embedded in me in what we do with C21 Canada. That's part of our journey in telling the story, right? It is about storytelling and painting a picture and showing success stories. And, you know, I'm here in a co-working innovation center that has state-of-the-art technology. We have co-op students and interns that we have some co-op students coming in today that are doing a podcast. And I said to them, I said, you know, one of your projects is a podcast. They've never podcasted before. I said, figure it out. You're doing a podcast because that is the way kids learn best. Give them a project, give them a challenge. I'm a big fan of challenge and problem-based learning. But they walk in here and they go, for the first time, this is a cool place. Well, shouldn't every school be a cool place to learn? This is where I talked about this morning in our EdTech report that went out there, our special edition, Summit Reflections edition. I talked about destroying the archaic industrial model. Because as long as that exists and is pervasive, we can talk about EdTech all day. But it's not, you know, we take a broader approach to it. It's an ecosystem. And it's about learning environments of the future. And that was kind of the theme of our summit, taking a more holistic approach. So we brought in experts from across North America and beyond to really envision and challenge the thinking around the way we learn today.
Yeah, absolutely. And Robert, what were some of your reflections about your summit? Like, what were some big takeaways that innovation that maybe struck you, or you were surprised by?
Well, I have to say, you know, Ottawa U, we had the opportunity to do a site visit, and I'm telling you, it was the best environment I've seen. It's not inexpensive, I imagine. They renovated and added a new building. But I have to say, that was a great introduction before the conference kicked off. It was a site visit. And kudos to Ottawa U and Richard Barwell, the dean, who had a vision. But they're not all consistently the same. And so, that was an aha moment for a lot of the delegates who are, seeing things like that. I had done a site visit. We have an innovative learning space here, work and learning space that we created. And that was inspired. It was problem solving exercise. I had an office at York University. When I came back, I was on the advisory board for the Institute for Technology and Education. And the dean said, we got some extra space. Let's partner and post you here. Great for 5 years. Then they said, we need the space back. Hence, problem solving skills kicked in. I had this vision of creating a work and learning space closer to home, innovative. And that's what we did. And we were the first in North America to do it. And sometimes you got to take risks, and you don't know, going into it not knowing everything and being a bit naive is not a bad thing. And that solved that challenge. But, so again, the learning environments were critical. AI was the rage, right? Like every session had something about AI. So what I talked about was, AI is awesome. It has potential to make us 30% more efficient. So teachers can actually create lessons and with rubrics and recommended EdTech tools on within 30 seconds, and then gives them extra time to spend with the students, where that's the secret sauce where the magic happens. It's that, as much as the conference was about EdTech, it was really about people connecting and sharing and inspiring each other. And the insights that we shared were incredibly powerful. But I talked about HI, and one of the presenters actually looked it up. It's hilarious. And who has their own EdTech company? I'm not going to mention the name. And I gave them a good poke about it, because HI is about human intelligence. That is the driver. It's, AI is the catalyst, but the driver has to be HI in the equation, because it's about people.
For sure. And that AI is since November, since ChatGPT, the explosion, this reactionary way that we had, and we saw it just as, the glass half empty instead of glass half full. How do you verbalize to teachers the positive aspects of AI, where it can, you alluded to one right there, where it can save you time so that you can have more time building those relationships with your kids. What are some other ways that you see AI as a positive influence on education?
Absolutely. So we have our co-op students come in, our interns, and I ask them to use it, so they're creating content. Whether you're working on an assignment, you create an essay and you want to put it through ChatGPT to, enhance it or make improvements or ask it questions about what might be missing, as long as you are the author of the product, and, in our case, we do social media all day long, and, we're getting ready for the holidays and inspiring people. And they come up with some great ideas working alongside this virtual AI assistant. So, from that perspective, giving students agency and letting them explore and discover and find the negatives in it. Like, what's wrong with, how accurate is it? Put it through a test, right? Do your homework. But that's really I was in Austin. I was honored to be invited down to Dell for a briefing, and Michael Dell comes into our session for 15, 20 minutes. And he talked about how AI is going to make their organization 30% more efficient. So it's, there are cautionary measures that need to be taken. You need a walled garden around it as a district, and that's going to evolve. where districts can have their own content available internally, and then so you're not going outside into the World Wide Web, right? So it's more secure for teachers and students. So that's really important to figure that piece out. We are working on an app that will enable teachers to create and leverage the tools that are out there, because that's one of the big barriers, isn't it? There's some 500 EdTech companies doing business in Canada. How in the world is an average classroom teacher teaching grade 3 history figure out what makes sense to use? So we're working on a tool that's going to enable, working with EdTech companies, enable them to figure out what tool is the right tool to use at the right time, and create, imagine how efficient that would be.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of speaking to this kind of idea of getting kids kind of exposed to EdTech, and technology in general. I mean, we're raising digital citizens in these days, where at least they need to have an awareness.
Right.
What do you think are the most important soft skills or knowledge sets that kids need to start to master before they graduate, to help them navigate this world that is, I mean, we were speaking about before, the pace of change is just insane. How do we get these kids up to speed so that once they graduate, they can navigate?
It's a great question, and I like to call them essential skills. We have the 7 C's, but Ethan, who presented at our summit, was one of the winners of our National Schools of the Future Student Invention Challenge. He was in grade 3 at the time. And he talks about creativity and ideas and solving problems. He created this device to pull plastics out of the oceans, and in great detail, like Leonardo da Vinci designed all these elements on a piece of paper, and he showed the PowerPoint. No one else had a PowerPoint to show that I had permitted except him at our Cross Canada checkup panel. And Ethan got a resounding standing ovation. I've never seen that happen. As soon as everyone immediately stood up on their feet and gave him a standing ovation, because he was so inspiring and authentic, and talking about ideas and solving problems aligned with the Sustainable Development Goals. Kids today are very different than when we were growing up and in school. We were happy to find a job because there was this crush of baby boomers. There were no jobs for teaching, policing, whatever. And today's kids, they want to make an impact. They want to solve challenges. They don't just want a job. That's the big takeaway for me from what I see in the mindsets of kids. Are teachers aligned with that? Not exactly, because it's the role of the teacher. We talk about sage on the stage and guide on the side. Some of them are kind of in between, and you need to be agile, right? We're preparing agile, resilient learners and leaders for the future is what we're doing. Are teachers there yet? Not everyone is. Some will come kicking and screaming. But what I will tell you this is that Ottawa Catholic School Board has alignment from top to bottom. That vision that they've been on is baked in throughout the system. And that was why they were School District of the Year. Unparalleled leadership. And that is paramount today.
Right. I love too how we're talking about EdTech. You'd think we'd be talking about the latest tool and this and that. And you're always saying it's about learning, about creativity, problem solving. You're not saying, if you use this app, it's going to unlock all these. Like, it's not about that, right? It almost becomes invisible, and you start talking and asking questions. And somebody told me from AI when they approach AI is to contour it is it forces you to ask good questions. And I think as teachers, I remember we had a class on asking good questions. So it's less on, let me tell you, than, well, let's figure things out. Similar to what you were alluding to with, with the guy on the side.
The notion of prompt engineering as a career pathway is fascinating. And one of the speakers that we had present was a graduate of Gonzaga here at the Peel Catholic District School Board. And Clive, on his own, found a program at the University of London on data analytics. Went on to do a master's degree at the London School of Economics and got his dream job with the NFL by going on LinkedIn and finding the right people to reach out to without any support from the career or guidance counselors. It cost him 12,000 Canadian to do both degrees. Well, nobody at the guidance office has any clue about what he did. And so we shared his story in the recent report. And that speaks to the student of the future. He's ahead of the curve, but he's a data analyst engineer with the NFL, looking at, concussion safety and analyzing data every week. Like, how cool is that?
Yeah.
That is something that leaders need to talk about. Not the typical, you're going to be a lawyer, you're going to be a doctor, you're going to be a police, data engineer, CFL, NFL, right?
Where's the
Tom
connection?
D'Amico,
but there is, right? Yeah, that's so cool.
Tom D'Amico is the head NHL official off ice. He's been doing that for 25 years. They started doing stats, counting shots on goal. Then he started counting hits, penalty minutes. Now they have 40 cameras, and through AI, they are capturing the data, automatically telling them who's taking the face-off, how many face-offs were won, how many hits, how many shots. And now they've had to be retrained, and he's got a team of 6 to process the data.
Right.
That is the future.
Authentic data too, right? Which is like, so get kids excited about numbers, get them to gather data and then analyze it.
Exactly. Dell came out with data dunkers with one of the Raptor players foundation and created this program to integrate basketball into the math curriculum, into STEM.
Right.
And one of the fascinating things now that AI will enable leaders to do as a superintendent or director, I can get agile data, full data, dynamic data on student attendance, performance, gaps, absenteeism, and it will be live data. That's what AI will enable. So some of the companies, now we can talk about some of the EdTech companies and their need to be embracing AI because they will be left behind. Right. The risk is school districts, institutions, post-secondary institutions some may not exist in the form they are today if they don't embrace the future of EdTech. It's just a reality because kids are going to micro-credentialing. I was at the World Conference on Distance Education last week. There are 2 million students enrolled in Pakistan in this open university that offers micro-credentials. They have 260,000 enrolled in the paid version, which each credit is like $2.50 or something. Incredibly inexpensive because they want to educate the entire country more rapidly. So there are other countries innovating. We can't rest on our laurels. Canada is a great country to live and work and learn. But I feel like there's this, when you get into this comfort level, you become kind of lulled into believing you're the best. and you kind of ease your foot off the gas pedal. Well, the reality is, I spend time internationally, and I know that we need to push that gas pedal and, stay within the limits, of course, but we can't rest on our laurels.
Absolutely. Well, Robert, this has been a really fascinating conversation, and maybe just to kind of wrap up, how do you support educators across the province with at the MindShare Learning? Like, what are some of the things or services that you guys offer?
Yeah, so we publish our e-magazine weekly, the Canadian EdTech Report. Monthly, we do a national or North American edition, and we share best practices, success stories. We have the Schools of the Future Challenge, Student Invention Challenge. We pivoted from a teacher, show us how you're using EdTech to engage kids, to a Student Invention Challenge, because that's the evolution that's happened. The student is now at the center. So we have that taking place. So we work at the teacher level, along with our clients that we work with, like Dell, like Nelson, and others that, Steamworks Studio is another one that's actually in our workspace that has incredible tools and resources to help teachers engage their students in more meaningful ways. Amazing.
Well, I encourage everybody to go check out the MindShare Learning Technology website. I'll put it in the descriptor.
Sure.
And again, Robert, I mean, we could spend hours talking.
Yeah,
I know
we can do a whole series.
We could just jive off of each other for hours, but it was a real pleasure having you. I'm really thankful that you got some time out of your day to have a chat, and I wish you all the best. And hopefully our paths will run into each other eventually down the road.
And kudos to you for doing this, because it really is through storytelling that we help people understand better the power and potential of tech-infused pedagogy and change the world.
Amazing. One teacher at a time. Thanks, Robert.
Pleasure.